Chris, education is central to your mission. So how do you balance that line between educating visitors and preserving a low-stress environment for your animals?
It's a great question. So we're very lucky that when we bought this land, and so we moved from 5 acres to, half acre to 5 acres to 40, and now we've expanded to 95. When we curated this space, we made sure that there was this walking path that went around the sanctuary so that you can be existing in the animals' homes, but not in their safe areas unless we're kind of welcoming that in. And so people are allowed to walk the space, but if a cow or pig or chicken or whoever doesn't want to interact with you, they've got all of their woods and their space to kind of go. And so as far as in-person visiting education is based off of the residents' desire to interact. So there's kind of twofold. One, we actually started a project for educational signage. So when you approach Buddy's Buds, it's a group named after Buddy, the first blind goat we rescued. There's all of our information about the residents that are in there, the plight of farmed animals, and so you can kind of educate yourself while you're approaching their pen.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Our guest today is Christopher Fuller-Wigg, founder of Austin Farm Sanctuary. Born in Galveston and rooted in Austin since 2008, Chris is Vice President of Services at Motive Software Consulting by day and Sanctuary Runner by night. In 2014, he paused his tech career to play pro volleyball in Barcelona with FB Barcelona. Returning in 2015, he rejoined Motive and found love, meeting Angela. In 2016, they bought a home and rescued their first animals, Bertha, Cookie, and Doya, the pig. They later relocated to Cedar Creek in 2018, growing Austin Farm Sanctuary to over 75 rescued residents. Balancing consulting, nonprofit leadership, and sanctuary life can't be easy, but we're going to hear how rewarding it can be. Chris and Angela's mission? To foster compassion for farmed animals, promote plant-based living, and build a kinder world powered by love. Chris, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Cheryl. That was touching to get to hear said, honestly. I'm a little goosebumped and teary-eyed over here, so thanks for running through that.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful story. Why don't you go ahead and tell us how you started Austin Farm Sanctuary and how it came to be?
So we started Austin Farm Sanctuary similar to how you mentioned Cookie and Bertha, the mother-daughter pair. As you mentioned, I work at a consulting company. One of the people that I worked with knew that Angela and I had just a week before purchased a half acre in South Austin, knew that we also loved animals, and he knew about these 2 goats that were in need. They were at a goat dairy. They were no longer of use at the goat dairy, and we all know that means they meet their ultimate demise. And luckily, we had just bought this land. We loved animals, so we went and got Cookie and her daughter Bertha that same weekend as we closed on our property, and that kind of opened our eyes to, we were already vegan at the time, so we knew about these animals, but we didn't really realize that our activism could be to actively help them. And then 3 months later, we got the call from our neighbor about Doya, a pig at FFA that had 2 to 3 days left before he was sent to slaughter. And it was in taking in Doya that really changed everything.
So what defined your philosophy of sanctuary?
It's a really good question. I think sanctuary not only exists as a place for animals to find refuge, but for them to find family, find friendship, find love and care. But also I think that a sanctuary is a reflection of what we want the world to be. The sanctuary is not just what we want our 95 acres to be, with creating hope and showing a vision of a place of Eden that we can all kind of live in this happy harmony. So it's for me, it's a window into a beautiful and brighter future, not just a stamp in time of what our space is like.
It's beautifully put. So many of your residents, they come to you clearly, they've been traumatized. So how do you ensure that those residents, are offered trust, and how do you rebuild their resilience over time?
Yeah. It's a really good question as well. I think that, we just like humans, we work to do that on their own time. Like our goal for them um is for them to heal. And some of them take that differently. We've had a pig, Licorice, that's been with us for nearly 8 years, but he still doesn't like to be touched. He knows that we're safe, but he just has, carried too much. And so we are making sure that we're respecting the boundaries that they set on. Our goal is not for them to want to be cuddly or love on us or anything like that. It's for them to find comfort and family. And so even though he hasn't become more and more comfortable necessarily with us, you see him interacting with his pig friends, and he's got this community, he's got this love. And so it's allowing for them to have the complex life that they need of their various, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As long as those are all achieved, then that's really what we're trying to accomplish for them. So we offer them kindness and consistency and healing when they need it, and shelter for all of the times that they do as well, and allow for them to experience a new life. We're lucky when we rescue babies, because even though their first couple of weeks or months or days have been hard, to lose their mothers, to lose their families, all of that, we know that they have years or decades of healing to be able to be done. It's really heartbreaking when we rescue a 23-year-old mama cow, because we just know that we can only give her 10 more years of happiness, and we know that she's experienced so much before us. And we lean into making sure that each of those days, those months, those years are built out of love and kindness for them, and not in to serve us in any way.
I like what you're saying there, Chris. We foster and rescue dogs. And our latest rescue, her name is Sophie, she came to us. I mean, she just basically spent a week in the corner. And it's been a year, and she's made a lot of progress. But, it's kind of, I've had to kind of put a pause on more fostering because she is so traumatized. And I think about this sometimes. It's like, well, you know what? It's on her schedule.
Mm-hmm.
She needs this space, and she may, as you just said, she may not have the life she could have had she never been put through what she was put through. But that's what rescue is all about. It's like meeting them where they are and giving them what they can have. So I
Yeah.
think that's beautiful.
Yeah, this
You're,
mama cow
you're,
Noble still has, that I mentioned, is 23 now. She still has her tag in her ear, and every visit comes. It's like, why does she still have her tag? It's like, well, the stress that it would take to take her tag off of us serves us. I don't want to see the tag, but she doesn't want me to hold her head to take this tag off. And
oh,
so I'm allowing her to live, and unfortunately still marked. But but it would be my ego that is trying to get involved to allow for this picturesque different setting versus her being handled yet again in a way that she doesn't feel safe with. And so there she roams with this unfortunate reminder of her past to us, that but it's not, it serves us to take it away from her. It doesn't serve her except for emotionally through us. So yeah.
that's a good point. And it is a good reminder for all of us, and for anyone who's visiting your sanctuary, that this is where she came from, and this is what was done to her.
Hmm. This is how she was seen. She got a name 22 years later, not the prior 22 years.
Oh, man. I'm very impressed with your story because it shows grassroots growth. So many sanctuaries are, they're built out of heart and not necessarily business, and they
Yeah.
struggle. So here you go, though, from a half an acre to 95 acres and 240 residents. That's amazing. So I'd love to hear about that, not only because it's a fabulous thing to talk about, but because others could be inspired by these are some of the things you need to think about if you're going to have a sanctuary and if you really want to be successful.
Yeah, I think that, because I get asked that all the time. People come like, "Oh, I'd love to start a sanctuary.
Mm.
It's so amazing. How did I'd love to grow to have something be this big." But our mindset was never to grow. It was never to go and achieve and do these big things. It was for Cookie, and then it was for Doya, and then it was for Miss Piggy, and then it was for Dolly. And like, I think my guidance to those people is don't let dreams or aspirations to be something big to guide you. Let the love that you have for each individual that comes into your arms and into your eyes and into your heart to kind of just let that next step happen. Because I think that, we then had 15 residents in our backyard that allowed for us to have the opportunity to advocate for them more, to go get the 5 acres. And of course, it took a lot of work to get there, but we never had scaling in mind. Now I think about that because we have people who are getting paychecks through the organization, and we have all of this potential. But I think that it's like, don't look at trying to create something large. Look at trying to create something that is impactful. And if you have 3 animals, or you have Sophie, your beautiful dog, that's impactful. So if it's just one, that is okay. And then allow for that to take you to your next step. And so if your heart guides your feet, then you won't find yourself stumbling. And I think that we've been very lucky that we've done that and people have embraced it on our mission. Like Angela and I, yes, started on this half acre, but organization is so much more than our grit and grind and heart and tears. It's, 5 staff members and dozens of volunteers and tens of thousands of people in a community that have allowed for us to get to this place. So let that grow naturally and let your community really help you. And our community has allowed for us to do such amazing things.
So tell me about your community.
Yeah. Man, we had an event a couple of weeks ago called Doya Palooza. And Doya, the first pig that we rescued, who's my boy, kind of our everything, at least to me, he kind of showed me this path. And he passed away in March of this year. And so we had this party kind of in honor of him and in celebration of just like what we've accomplished and what his majesty kind of just allowed for us to see and envision, and like looking at his eyes and knowing that there were billions of Doyas in the world that just wanted to be seen in the way that we saw him and what he inspired in us. So I mentioned that because that celebration was about Doya, but it was about bringing people together to celebrate him, but also to celebrate us, people who are taking, this leap of faith to stand differently against their family members or the people around them. Or we're here in Central Texas. You can't drive 10 miles without driving by hundreds of cow pastures and 10 barbecue joints, and to kind of isolate yourself against people who might see differently from you. So our community is built off of really that grassroots. I mean, we started on the half acre and those 5 acres with $5 Venmo donations, like getting us by. And it's grown into finding other compassionate people that are able to do more, or people that come out to volunteer, or it's just so dynamic that people have found us. And I think that they see it as a sanctuary for these animals, but a place to kind of go find their community, people who are like-minded and feeling like a safe space where they don't have to feel like they have to argue or justify or defend, but instead they get to live again in this like Eden, this slice of heaven that we all hope the future can be. And so our community is a collection of those people really across the world now that just see in that same way, or if they don't see, they're ready to open up their eyes to the potential and go kind of on this journey that our residents are so magnificently capable of taking people on by showing their stories and showing their truth.
Well, you mentioned around the world, and I understand that you have a virtual sanctuary tour.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, that started up with COVID. And we realized, early on, the sanctuary was called Fuller-Wigg Farms Animal Sanctuary back on our half acre. So we just thought this was like a safe little funny farm. And then we found out very quickly that this was so much more than us. And so we changed our name to really reflect the people in our community. And then when COVID came around, and so we offered tours to kind of come out, and of course as a fundraising stream, but we knew that we wanted people to get to meet a pig or meet a cow and just know somebody, because then your decisions and your conflicts and your questions that you ask, you can be so much different. And it's different for me as a vegan to ask somebody about their lifestyle decisions or their diet or who they're consuming or wearing. But if they can sit and come to the sanctuary and say, oh, that's Pax, what's his story? Oh yeah, he joined us at 3 weeks old. He was taken from his mom. He was born in the dairy industry. They ask questions. But if you were to say that in some other context, people don't ask. They find themselves guarded and become reserved. And so during COVID, we started virtual tours because we wanted our reach to be able to share these stories, to not just be people who could find themselves walking through our gates. We wanted them to be able to experience us in a different way. And that also is a great inroads because it allowed for us to kind of do more corporate virtual tours and a boss bringing us in for a 15-minute break for the team to kind of have some morale boosting moment, which is fantastic because then it just gave me this inroads to talk about these individuals and their plight and see these people who were not expecting. They thought maybe they were just going to see a cute cow on the video, but they're learning about not just a cute cow, but they're learning about Chance, an individual with a name. And so virtual tours is a way to, of course, allow for people to see our sanctuary, but to get to learn in a greater capacity than they probably were expecting to beforehand.
You're going to have to tell us all about how to find that because I think that's genius. Seems like you really know how to use media to get the message out, which I really applaud. And I think do you think your background helps with that?
Yeah, I credit that a lot. So I work in consulting and specifically I've worked for 13 years now at Motive in sales, marketing, and service, like consulting and like implementation. So when you asked the question earlier about how do we kind of get to where we are, and I credit a lot to it that I come to it as like an animal lover at heart, but I also
Hmm.
have a business background. And so I know the risks of overextension and all of those different things. And so I allow for that to kind of anytime I find myself being emotional, because we're animal people doing a very hard thing in a very sad world, to allow for hopefully the background I have in business to like ground me back into what is most impactful for the individuals. And all the ways that we communicate is definitely very strategic in ensuring that their voices can reach the most amount of people, and we can make the most impact for not just our 250, but the billions and trillions that need us every day.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, this is Better Life for Animals, and we're speaking to Christopher Fuller-Wigg of Austin Farm Sanctuary. Chris, education is central to your mission. So how do you balance that line between educating visitors and preserving a low-stress environment for your animals?
It's a great question. So we're very lucky that when we bought this land, and so we moved from 5 acres to our half-acre to 5 acres to 40, and now we've expanded to 95. When we curated this space, we made sure that there was this walking path that went around the sanctuary so that you can be existing in the animals' homes, but not in their safe areas unless we're kind of welcoming them that in. And so people are allowed to walk the space, but if a cow or pig or chicken or whoever doesn't want to interact with you, they've got all of their woods and their space to kind of go. And so as far as in-person visiting education is based off of, the residents' desire to interact. So there's kind of twofold. One, we actually have started a project for educational signage. So when you approach Buddy's Buds, it's a group named after Buddy, the first blind goat we rescued. There's all of our information about the residents that are in there, the plight of farmed animals. And so you can kind of educate yourself while you're approaching their pen. And then, of course, allow for the residents to kind of come up and meet people. And we found over the years that more likely than not, they're going to come up and be looking for their berries and their carrots and their loves and their snuggles and their pets and all of that. But again, while also balancing that we purposefully don't offer cow cuddling on our website, even though you very well may have Petunia come up and want to hug you and wrap her neck around you. We want to make sure that our marketing of these experiences is an experience for the resident, not an experience for the person that is visiting them, because it is for them. And if our cup gets filled up at the same time, that is fantastic, but it is not, there's not some sort of expectation we have of any of the individuals. So that's how we really try to balance it. And then when you take a private tour of the sanctuary, which people can book, then Pierce, who's our lead tour guide as well as staff member for going on 5 years now, will personally take individuals into a pen to meet residents. And so he can really make sure that we're being respectful of their boundaries and keeping everybody safe, as well as learning their stories.
That's a great idea to have it around the perimeter.
Yeah, you
it's
can just
just
kind of always look in and kind of and see them, and yeah, they have
yeah,
their own space. Well, if they would like to choose to share it with us, then they do.
yeah, love it. So how do you weave vegan advocacy with sustainable living into your messaging?
Yeah, I think that it was kind of the way that we have it beforehand. We make sure that we're never light on the V word, veganism. We make sure that when people arrive, we're like, hey, this is a vegan sanctuary. This is why, out of respect for the residents, making sure that when you're coming on site, please don't consume or bring any animal products. So we kind of broach that topic at the very beginning, but we purposefully make sure we're not asking anybody. It's not like, hey, raise your hand if you're vegan or vegetarian. We don't like poll the group because we know that that would create some sort of resistance early. And so the way that we weave it in is as we're going on a tour, I guess the way we weave it in specifically is through storytelling. I don't need to tell somebody about me and I'm vegan or my wife's vegan or if our kid's vegan or anything like that. I instead want to share about Pax or Knox or Zoe, these cows that have been rescued from these situations, or the plight of the Kaporos chickens that would have been killed at 6 weeks old, because of a mass sacrifice. So we talk about their stories, and actually we find ourselves, other than that very beginning, when we mentioned that we're a vegan sanctuary, we actually don't say plant-based or vegan the entire rest of the time because it almost becomes irrelevant because their stories is what we want people to connect with, and we want those wheels to turn versus any sort of verbiage that may or may not kind of taint people's experience in their view. And then we just allow for the residents to move them that way, by sharing the truth about their plight and the magnitude of the amount of animals that are currently in this experience, and kind of the juxtaposition of here's where they are now and here's where they could have been, and ensuring that conversation is always happening at every single resident visit about, oh, Buddy's adorable and blind. Yes, he loves you to pet him. He was rescued because he was born blind at a farm and was no longer viable to the farmer and was going to be killed, so he wasn't. And in that, people already have their gears turning of realizing all of these different things. Yeah.
Do you have any programs tailored for vulnerable populations such as special needs children or trauma survivors?
Great question. Nothing specifically curated towards that, but we have worked with a number of different groups to host either retreats or tours. We found ourselves most over the last couple of years working very closely with recovery centers for adults that have either drug or alcohol abuse, and they're at these places for 4 to 8 to longer weeks, and they actually come out and do service work with us. So it usually is engaging with the tour and then kind of getting their hands into the soil and into the dirt and working with the residents and really allowing for them to get to feel valuable in their community again by participating in this, and allowing for, you leave a place happy if you get kissed on the face by a big old cow tongue. So we really try to make sure that we're there to allow for people to intercept or work with our residents in kind of any place that they are in life. And so luckily, a lot of those people have found us and asked for tours or anything along those lines. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you have educational programs for youth? I thought I read that you were involved with LEAP.
Yes. Yeah. So we are involved with LEAP. We're really grateful that we were one of the first kind of beta groups to test with LEAP a couple of years ago. So we now run the LEAP Leaders in Ethics, Animals, and the Planet. And we ran their high school program a couple of years ago. We did it again this past year, as well as extended into middle school. And then we're working with the lovely people over at LEAP to then extend into also doing kids, meaning focused on like kind of elementary school and younger ages as well.
So how do those programs, can you tell me how that works? Like when you're reaching into the younger population, how do you change the program to suit them?
So LEAP is fantastic because it's run by these individuals that have specifically built curriculum because they've worked with students, whether they're, children or youth or in high school. And so they kind of meet them where they are with the types of curriculum. So it's not just on animal welfare. There's conversations about the environment and then the impact of people that work in these spaces or how to run a sanctuary. So there's actually, for high school specifically, there's a 9-month long curriculum. The students come out for 4 to 5 hours once a weekend. We have a curriculum. We then do a vegan lunch, kind of show them how to cook or eat vegan foods and kind of expand their mind to what this vegan food is. And then we go do a chore or a project with the residents. And so they have actually worked to tailor that to being maybe a little bit more forthcoming with some of the sad information for the high school students, while also playing that a little bit more and telling some stories that aren't as on the nose with like the middle schoolers to kind of just get their gears turning, which again, then can go branch over into the specific stories that we're able to share when we meet some of the residents. And they inevitably, kids are amazing because unlike adults, kids ask questions and they don't have the guards built up as much as we do. And so they're so open to learn. You can just see their wheels turning about trying to connect. And, some of the times the first time they've ever connected that a chicken was the chicken that may also be consumed. And you're seeing this like relationship between animal and food. And you just get to see that processing happen is really special.
As an author of 3 children's books, I feel it's really important to start young. And I think children deserve to know the truth and that I believe they can handle it. I think that when they make that decision that they're not going to participate in that's something to celebrate.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And they come with no, the defensiveness of an adult when they're kind of confronted with these things is because we feel guilt or something because of the years that we had beforehand. And children don't carry that. They're ready and open to be influenced. And yes, my son also does love your books. The other day, he was just running around with the ribbon that we had purchased at Ava that tied all of the 3 together. He loves his 3 books and as well as his ribbon.
It's funny because I remember meeting you and your lovely wife at Ava, and I was talking to my husband this morning about who I was going to interview you. And he says, oh, he's the little one that was running around with the ribbon.
He loves that ribbon.
Yeah, that was a brilliant idea to market the books by putting the fancy ribbon around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just let's keep going about how important it is, though, to be sustainable financially, because I think that you sound like you're just a success story. So I'm imagining that you charge for your virtual tours and that there are, donations. What are your most successful fundraising strategies?
Our most successful fundraising strategies. It's easy to fundraise when there's an emergency. You can post a picture of a sad piglet that needs to be rescued, and we'll get that, those $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever that is. But from a sanctuary perspective, we've always been focused on like, well, what is our monthly budget and how we make sure we're always maintaining month to month, because we can't take in a resident just because we can cover their initial cost. We have to be expecting that we're caring for them for decades and for a lifetime. So we are always trying to be pushing and managing towards creating our family of monthly sustainers. I think that's our most important baseline, is we have this many people that have already pre-committed their donations to support the sanctuary this month. And so we know we have an established baseline every single time. Other than that, we found a lot of success with events, having people welcoming them out to the sanctuary, both because that allows us to achieve our goal of having our educational mission, but also brings people on site, which hopefully encourages additional donations and sponsorships of residents. So the more we're focused on connecting people to the residents and we can ensure their consistent support is great. And then we also recently hosted a silent auction. So for anybody listening out there, silent auction was a really great inroads. It cost us very little. Our volunteers curated this amazing group of silent auction items that we ended up raising just over $15,000 for during Doya Palooza. And that was hands down the most successful event we've ever had. And I think $14,000 of those donations came directly from running the silent auction. And thank you to my friends over at Iowa Farm Sanctuary for telling me to go that route. Jared was out just a couple of months ago and told me to go the silent auction way. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that those would be the main three, but just ensuring that, we're focused on sustainability, like you mentioned. We cannot rescue beyond our means. This is a goal. This is already an exhausting enough job as it is with all of the empathy, fatigue, and just loss that you have to deal with. The financial strain is always going to be real, but we have to make sure that if the residents are going to live for 20 years, we have to make sure that the sanctuary is built to last 50. And so how do we always make sure that we are managing a capacity calendar of, can we rescue a resident? There's criteria we go through. Do we have the health? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the finances? Do we have the plan? Always asking these questions, as opposed to, as animal lovers, we just want to say yes. But does everything else in our checkbox say yes? And it's an unfortunate layer that we have to add, but it is the most realistic layer to make sure that we're, not just giving them safety the first time, but giving them safety for their life.
And it allows you to know that you're going to be around in 10 years.
Exactly.
So that's, I think, wonderful advice, is to, think, long-term financially before you accept, because there's always, at this point, unfortunately, there's so much more need than there is supply.
Exactly. And the sustainability also becomes the people on your team. I'm still a volunteer at the sanctuary, but we do have 5 staff members now. And every time I make a decision to rescue a resident, I have to consider our finances. I have to consider that individual and if we can help them, but I also have to consider the mental well-being of the people who are going to take this on. Does that ask them to extend themselves more than they already can? It's going to be 105 degrees here in Texas for the next 3 months. Like, can they do this? Do we burn them out or lose them or not consider them as much as we want to consider the residents? So, making sure that you're thinking through what is the sustainability and attainment and care that you can give the people who are supporting your organization, and your donors. Are you asking of them too much and going to burn them out even? So thinking this through beyond the individual that we're rescuing, can your operation scale to support them? And there's a lot of people to consider in that as well. And yeah, their well-being is also important, because that's when it's going to allow us to last, is finding those people that are going to be there day in and day out to care for the individuals. And we can't overly extend them. We all know, as animal lovers, we are going to be extended. But what is that limit that we all find? And unfortunately, over the years, I've learned the hard way to find that limit early, or else I'm going to lose people, very valuable people that, and losing them hurts our ability to achieve our mission, and hurts their ability to be able to be a part of achieving that mission. So we have to be careful, with a hyphen between care and full.
And I imagine that applies to yourself as well and your family. I mean, you have to continually, replenish yourself, because this is not easy work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a balance that is, it is a daily struggle to kind of find that of, how there's sometimes a feeling of weakness if you can't go to the finish line and just keep going and push hard and grind. It's for them, and just grind and grind. But how does that serve them when I'm a puddle on the ground in 3 years and I can't do it and everything starts to crumble? And so again, you learn through those things. You find yourself in these trenches, which I found myself many of times, and kind of depleted, and then having to learn, how do you not put yourself back into that spot? The greatest thing for me is I have an amazing group of board members, Angela and myself, as well as 2 people, Lynn and Laura. And there's been times in the last 3 years where I've been burnt out and depleted, but they've been there to lift me up. And when I'm in this rut, when we lost Doya, we also lost Galactus and Willie and Cookie all of the last 6 months, and they were so integral to my connection to the sanctuary. I was in a dark place, but the team allows for you to only dip so low, because then they'll hold on to you until you're ready to recover and get out of that. And so I see people doing this as, people who are out there doing this alone and pushing forward. If you don't have that team around you, the times that you trip and fall, because we have to trip and fall, we're running fast and running hard through a dark place. You need those people to lift you back up. So I encourage people in the sustainability is build a trusted team around you, and then you'll never fail, because you'll always have each other's back.
It's beautifully put. So looking ahead, what is your dream, Chris, for your sanctuary?
Oh man. I dream a lot. I think that maybe we'll extend beyond the 95 acres. There is land around us. Luckily, we're in Texas, so manifest destiny is always abundant. But that's my goals now have shifted, and we're very lucky. In the last year, we built some really incredible infrastructure for the residents, so we know that they're safe through hail and snow and heat and all of that, thanks to some incredible donors. My goal for the sanctuary now is just to ensure that we're able to extend our reach. We'll continue to rescue animals day in and day out. That will be our number one goal, is to provide love and care to residents on the property. But I am committed to our mission is not to save a couple of hundred animals or thousands over time. Like, we're focused on the billions. And so I really want to make sure, where are there ways that we can grow our educational programs? How can we grow our social media and marketing to allow for our stories to reach the masses, and making sure that, this animal on the other side of the world is also being supported and advocated for through us, and not just the ones that we find close to us that could ever enter the gates. And so I guess, to say in short, my dream is that AFS is a sanctuary, not just for animals that are lucky enough to land here, but we're advocates for those across the world. And so pivoting our focus and scaling our amplification of their voices is my biggest dream now.
Very well put. You're well on your way. You're very much a shining example for all of us. It's very inspirational. I'm really glad to have met you. Tell us if there's anything more that you'd like to say, or what we can do for you on this podcast, and how we can get the word out, and also how to find you.
Yeah. I guess the number one thing people can do, whether it's us or one of their fellow sanctuaries or something, find somebody in your community that's caring for animals and support them. Just in the way you mentioned, we're all trying to do good deeds, and we're all marching in the same direction. So find people to contribute your love to. For us specifically, go follow us on social media, give a follow, support a resident. Almost all of the 250 residents at Austin Farm Sanctuary are listed on the Meet the Residents page at the top of our website. So if you go to austinfarmsanctuary.org, click on Meet the Residents, go learn their stories, support them monthly would be fantastic. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll stay in the loop of all of our fundraisers. Here in a couple of weeks, we have our Beat the Heat fundraiser. We're really excited to put solar panels on all of our barns across the property, so we can bring fans, misters, and heaters to all of the residents to support their comfort. And so that's coming here pretty soon. And then all of the other dynamic ways that we try to get people involved. We have a 4th of July cookout here on Saturday the 5th, and we really try to match a lot of the events at the sanctuary aligned to other large holidays, because we want to kind of take back holidays. So many people, especially vegans, feel ostracized and like they can't get involved, or Thanksgiving and Christmas or Halloween or all of these things feel so foreign to them. But we create a safe space that we've kind of converted the typical cultural things really over to our own more compassionate style for that. So if people are around, we have compassionate cookouts and events and things like that. So all found through our website. So if you go to austinfarmsanctuary.org, join our email newsletter, you'll be plugged into any and all of the above.
Beautiful. Thank you. This has been Christopher Fuller-Wigg of Austin Farm Sanctuary, and this has been Better Life for Animals. If you have enjoyed this podcast, I hope that you will like and subscribe, as it helps us to create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.